Welcome, everyone, to 18-Minute Experts, the podcast where we delve into the minds of industry leaders to bring you valuable insights in just 18 minutes or less. I'm your host for today, Matthew Butters, and today we have a couple seasoned experts with us in the world of group benefits. But before we jump into the conversation, a quick reminder to our listeners, if you enjoy your podcast, subscribe to us on Spotify, YouTube, or you can listen to us at www.peoplecorporation.com/18minexperts and leave us a review. We'll link it below. Your feedback is invaluable. To everyone listening today, thank you. I am so excited about what we have going on today. We have a couple of awesome guests, and we're going to have a conversation about personal branding, storytelling, especially within the world of group benefits. So with me today, Robin Bailey from Aria Benefits, a friend of mine, and from People Corporation, Hannah Gilmour. So thanks so much, Robin, Hannah, for joining today. Can you tell the listeners a little bit about yourself? Maybe, Robin, you go first.
Well, I'd like to start with saying thank you for acknowledging me as a friend because like my dad before me, I remember growing up in the insurance business and Dad making these great turned out to be lifelong friends. And I certainly consider you to be one of those and one of my favorite people that I've met in the industry. So I appreciate you being here. My story, which we'll get into a little bit, is I've been in the business since 1996. I started as a benefits rep at one of the insurance companies, and then eventually saw the light and came over out of the broker side, and the rest is history, as they say.
That's awesome. Hannah.
Thank you so much for having me here today, Matt. I'm really excited to be here. Hi, everyone. I'm Hannah Gilmour, the manager of brand strategy at People Corporation. I've been with PC for about 3.5 years now. I've always been passionate about storytelling and strategic brand development. And in my role, I focus on empowering our group benefits consultants with powerful brand strategies. And I'm dedicated to enhancing the brand experience while equipping our consultants with the tools they need to excel. I'm excited to be here today and ready to dive into some great discussions alongside our other fantastic guest, Robin.
So how exciting for me. I get to host two hosts. So the pressure's on. Don't hold me under too much scrutiny, but I think we can have some fun today, learn a little bit and share some awesome stories. That's what it's all about on 18-Minute Experts. And today, we're talking about branding, right? And we all know that branding is everywhere. Every day, we go outside, we open our phone, we're faced with millions of brands that are relying on perception. They want to stand out. They want to relate to their target audience. They use, advertisements, compelling logos, colors, and their ultimate goal is to evoke a sense of emotion from their audience. And in the world of group benefits, we're faced with a different set of challenges, right? We don't necessarily have the resources of a brand like a McDonald's or a Nike, but we still want to develop and personalize a brand so that we can be recognized. The ultimate goal, be recognized in the industry, attract clients, retain clients. So Hannah, can you help us understand some of the benefits of a good personal brand in the context of being an advisor?
Yeah, sure thing. So the science of branding or the science of something is really interesting because, it often entails objective principles. And for branding, I think that means, specifically having a creative image or an identity that's often tied to that perception of emotional connection and confirmation bias. So often, buyers will favor a product or a service that confirms a message, a value, or a belief that they already have towards that thing, right? And in the world of group benefits, it's particularly important because, you're essentially selling yourself and your relationship with someone. And I think it's really important that people like Robin, who do a fantastic job, and maybe Robin, you can give us some more technical explanations for that. But that's what I would like to say is that, it's really all about harnessing that emotional connection and perception that you have with someone.
So that's why I'm so excited to have you here today, Robin. No slight against Hannah, but Robin, we've worked together for over 10 years now, and it's been a real pleasure seeing your brand develop and grow over that time. I remember it was, probably 8 or 9 years ago. It seems like yesterday, but we were, looking at a couple of potential logos for your new brand, Aria Benefits. And now, in my humble opinion, you've grown to be one of the premier group benefits brands in Ontario, from what I've seen. So can you tell us about your journey? How did you build this brand? How did you get to this point in your career?
Well, thank you for that. And Matt, you and I have known each other and we've had so much fun working together over the years. And I'm so glad we're doing this and we still get to connect. And just having met Hannah about 2 weeks ago, I've become a fan of hers too, because I'm realizing, oh, this is a person that I can learn a ton off of. So I was excited to do this as well. So I get in the elevator one day with Al McDonald, who is now one of my business partners.
Right.
And I'm saying to Al, I said, I'm not so sure I like this individual side of the business, even though I'd done all my training, my CFP and that sort of thing. And Al kind of looks at me with a funny look and says, oh, well, I hate the group side of the business. So of course the light bulb goes off. I start pursuing Al, said, hey, we should maybe start a company. All I want to do is benefits and pensions. And Al, I found out, was already going down that road. And he said, listen, sounds like a good fit, but I can't say yes. You'd have to meet the other person that I'm going down this road with. So if you know Al, he's got a great poker face, won't give anything away.
Of course.
We book an offsite meeting, and there I go. I walk into the meeting, and there is Joe Ferreira, my partner today. And I was immediately in. So fast forward, we launched a company in 2005 as Life and Legacy Advisory Group. All the branding around that was done by Karen McDonald, which is my business partner's wife. She's done a fantastic job. That brand got established very, very quickly. And I think it was a result of, we committed a couple things. We committed to being equal partners in every sense of the word. A lot of other firms had started at that time where they were coming together to share expenses, but they weren't a true partnership. We believed we were going to work for the good of the client, and no matter where the business came from, we all get paid the same. That brand worked really, really well from 2005 to 2017. It was in 2017 that I was preparing for the partners meeting. I always felt the Life and Legacy brand represented the financial planning, the estate planning really, really well. But you had to dig really deep into the website under the About Us section. There's, Robin does benefits. So this is where I went into the meeting. I said, guys, what if we told people that we did benefits and we're really, really good at it? And that's where the Aria Benefits brand was born. And Matt, you already referenced it. We started thinking about logos and that sort of thing. And really where we've taken it, and we can talk about this a little later, I'll pause, because the podcast really took that brand to another level. But that's the career journey and how we ended up where we are today.
Integrating the way you make people feel is a very client-focused mission statement, for lack of a better word, right? It is part of your brand, but it's not oriented on how you necessarily present yourself. It's about focusing on the end user experience, not to, depersonalize who we're working with, but because it is such a nice approach, it's a different way of looking at it. And I think that's part of the reason. And Robin, I've seen this. I've been on client calls with you in the past. I've met people that you've worked with through your podcast that are clients of yours. And I can say that you are carrying on your dad's legacy in an effective way, because I see the way that they respond to you. When you talk about business, when you talk about personal, the stories that you tell to each other, it is a symbiotic relationship where you both help each other and you do make your clients feel, safe, secure. You're giving them value. They feel like friends. And so in that regard, I think you're really doing a fantastic job. And even though it isn't necessarily something visual as a part of your brand, it's really cool that you can vocalize that and put it into practice effectively when you're working with your clients. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I sat down with Christine Song last summer, and I don't know if you guys know who Christine is. She's in Toronto, works with a lot of tech startups, and she had been on the podcast, and she gave me such a valuable piece of advice that I was doing somewhat prior to her pointing it out, but I've done it more since, and I've seen the effects of it. And she had said, when you're doing the podcast, you're interviewing a CEO, and that's great to get the corporate story, but try to get to know the person behind the role. And that's what I've tried to do as well. And I've developed personal relationships, and it's funny, the people that I would call friends has just exponentially grown over the last year, because we've taken a different approach on, okay, I'm dealing with a CEO, I'm dealing with a CPO, I'm dealing with a VP of people. I want to know who you are and what it's about. And I find when you can cross that bridge, business becomes, it's a default. You're going to do business together because people buy from people they actually like, know, and trust, right? And it just creates a different level of experience for both the client as well as our office, because I find what happens is, if I've developed that relationship, then that warmness, I guess, going into that leverages over to the team as well.
You're surrounding yourself with good people, with successful people, and success breeds success, right? So it really isn't too different. How you're branding yourself internally and externally, what I can say for sure, Robin, is it's authentic, right? Because you're doing it everywhere. If you were just doing something externally as part of a brand, it can sometimes be see-through. But when you're doing it for the right reasons and you're being authentic about it, it does breed success, and people do believe it and they do see it because you wear it as well. Now, you've kind of demonstrated to us in some of your stories already how important storytelling is about your business. Hannah, from more of like a scientific perspective, and I use that term loosely, right? Where Robin's the art and you might be the science. How important is storytelling when it comes to building a brand if somebody's kind of starting from scratch or trying to develop something for themselves, particularly like in a professional environment like you work in?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think Robin's story really is a testament to this subject, because stories, whether they're personal or anecdotal, they really foster a deep connection between the brand and the audience. And outside of that, storytelling is what allows brands to communicate values and mission in a relatable and compelling way. So through narrative, brands get the chance to show what they stand for. And actually thinking back to the brand webinar that we recently did, someone in the audience asked the question of, how do I know which color palette to choose when I'm identifying my personal brand? Now, we ran out of time before we got to this question, but at the end of that webinar and for the rest of the day, I kind of sat with that question because, I thought to myself, how would I answer that question personally, right? And so what I like to do is I think about how often the color green pops up in my life around me. Now, I wear a lot of green. I paint my walls green. I simply love green. But then I thought about it a little deeper, because if you know anything about me, I'm from North Carolina, and I've been here in Canada with my family for a few years now. But North Carolina is super lush, especially this time of year. The mountains over the Blue Ridge is just gorgeous. It's a green tapestry of rolling hills. And trees, I'd say, really are the canopy or the mascot of North Carolina. So then I think about it even further, and I think about, my childhood and what that foliage meant to me, doing road trips to Asheville, North Carolina, to see my grandparents, and all those years, spent in the back seat watching the trees blow around me. So the entirety of my youth was spent in North Carolina. Then, fast forward to now, I've moved to the tundra, and I'm not saying
now it's white.
No, and that's what I was about to say. I'm not saying that at that point green became my favorite color, right? But I think it lives within me. So those vast forests are my identity and will always be part of me in some way. And I think that's how I like to look at storytelling too, and personal branding, is that there's always a connection to be made. Whether there be a character, a series of events, there's always this backdrop to kind of set that up. And for me, I'm rarely short of inspiration. So I think that helps, but I'd say that when you think of storytelling from a brand perspective, it's always helpful to just make those connections, because they exist and they're real if you're authentic and truthful to yourself when you're trying to tell those stories.
That is like such an incredible introspection that you just provided and shared. Like, I kind of have goosebumps a little bit. I wish I could bottle that up a bit, because what a fun exercise to do, right? When considering everybody has their own personal brand, it doesn't have to be representing a company. It can be how you carry yourself and the stories you tell and how you work with anybody. It could be colleagues or clients. So taking that minute to kind of think, not just from a color standpoint, but like, how do you want to present yourself, right? Like, what are you trying to accomplish? Robin, at the risk of putting you on the spot, do you have, like, is there a reason behind the Aria colors? What kind of thought goes into building a logo from scratch like that?
Well, I grew up in Ontario, so I don't have those same, the tundra like you said.
Me too, buddy. Me too.
So and now I want to go to North Carolina, by the way.
Come on down.
Just got to show us around.
The life and legacy advisory group, those colors are more in the green family, and they really represent the estate planning and financial planning. And a lot of our branding is tied to, growth of plants and organic and that sort of thing. Aria Aria had to be a different color, and I really credit Karen for everything we did on the Aria brand. Of course, we consulted. Blue is by default. I love blue. I'm wearing my Aria shirt today, and I've got the blue on the side here. The black and blue just works for me. One of the things I was going to say about storytelling, and it's, some people I talk to, and you talk about storytelling, they see storytelling as making things up. Or and Hannah, you had said it a couple of times. If you're telling the authentic story and who you are and what you represent, I think that's what connects us. And I remember having lunch with, and I'm allowed to reference who it is, and I've asked her, and I can tell this story because it's a great story. I'm having lunch with the Chief People Officer, Hannah Yardley of Achievers, last summer, and she's just a wonderful person in so many ways. But I asked her, I said, why did you end up going with us for the business to be your broker? Because they had a lot of choice out there, and they're a large company, so they can work with anyone. And she said something that I've told many times, and it's connected us with other people, and it's certainly helped our business as well. And she turns to me and she says, we always thought a broker was a means to an end until we met you and we realized we had a partner. And that to me is such a powerful story for us to be able to tell, because it says everything you need to know about us. That we're not a transactional broker that is just going to get you numbers or save you 10%, because anybody can do that. There's a partnership there, which means sharing back and forth, and we're going to be there for the good times with each other, and we're going to be there for the challenging times with each other. So I just think stories like that, and everyone has them. You might not realize them, you have them, but if you start and think about some of the conversations you've had with clients, with suppliers, with friends, we all have those great stories to tell. And people want to hear those stories. They want to know who you are.
They do.
That's an incredible example, right, of storytelling in action, and having that vote of confidence in your back pocket to share with enthusiasm and the credibility that it brings. And I think it also encourages anybody listening today that wants to go on this brand journey, that really the start is introspection, right? It is reflection.
Absolutely.
It's like Robin said, putting pen to paper, looking inward, because without a solid foundation, any structure, it's going to crumble, right? So if you want to build something successful like you've done, Robin and Hannah, that you're able to coach others to do, it really does start at the most basic piece.
Matt, I'd love to share something really quick for people who are just beginning to go on this journey. And it's really where I didn't talk about it. It's where Aria came from. So years ago, I read a book called Vivid Vision, and I apologize, I do not remember the author. So and I know he's Canadian, so if he's listening,
we'll put it in the description on YouTube so that anybody can look it up.
And I read this book when I was on vacation in Aruba. So I was sitting, and essentially the premise of the book is, in an ideal world, as the CEO of your company, if you could step into a time machine today and step out 3 years later, specifically, what would your company look like in terms of cash flow, in terms of revenue, in terms of personnel, in terms of what the office space looks like? And I wrote that in detail prior to coming to the partners and saying, hey, I want to launch Aria Benefits. And it's been amazing to see things that we wrote down going on 4 years ago now that have come to fruition. But it's such a valuable exercise, because unless you stop and think, where do I want the company to be? What do I want that brand to represent? What do I want other people to think about us? It's such a valuable exercise. So that was something. If you're just starting this journey, that would be a really good place to start.
That's incredible advice, right? Things don't just happen. You, by putting it down and creating an action plan, that's how you get to where you want to be. So in that same vein, kind of as we wrap up, what's next in your branding journey? You've already accomplished so much. Congratulations on 200 episodes of your podcast. Do you have any new approaches or ideas that you're going to implement, to strengthen that brand and continue to grow your business?
There's always something. There's always something on the go, and Matt, as you know, I kind of hold that close to my chest. So
Love that.
I won't give anything away, but I will leave you with something that's really important. And for people starting on this journey, I encourage you to continue on and continue to grow your companies, because the impact on people's lives that you will have is that will be one of the most rewarding things that you will leave with and retire with. And Matt, if you don't mind, I can share a few. We had a fellow named Chris Desmond who was with us for a short period of time, and now, as I call him, is Aria alumni. And one of the things that we truly believe at our firm is we hope when you join us that you're here for a long time. But if you're not, at least we can be part of your journey. And now Chris is at Blue Cross, and it's amazing how things happen. Chris is now our representative at Blue Cross. And one of the things that he told me, and he was really upset about leaving, and I don't think he'd be upset if I shared that, but he was upset about leaving, but it was a really good offer for him. So we encouraged him to go. And when he said to me, he said, by the way, I've negotiated to make sure I'm Aria's rep. I knew we had trained him well. So, you know, that's been incredibly rewarding. And then seeing people step up, like Stephanie from our team has stepped into that role. She's knocked it out of the park. I find that is one of the most rewarding things that I've had through this entire journey. We're talking about branding, but of course that all leads to growing the company.
Right.
And at the end of the day, those are the things that I really, really will cherish one day when I retire. But I've still got lots planned. So
I know you do,
tuned.
and you still have a solid plan. We're gonna have you back again once those plans are in motion, right? We don't want to reveal what's under the hat, but it's such fantastic information, and thank you for sharing the insights today. I obviously, Robin, wish you continued success as you continue to build your brand, as you continue to grow as a company. And Hannah, of course, thank you for some of your insights and that awesome introspection with respect to your background in North Carolina. Everyone, go check out Robin's podcast too. Success Leaves Clues. And if you need a capable benefits advisor, he'd be more than happy to help you. I'm sure Robin would love to hear from you as well. And I think that's it, everybody. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Thank you, Matt. Thanks, Robin.
And there you have it, folks. Another episode of 18-Minute Experts. If you enjoyed today's conversation, don't forget to subscribe and stay tuned for more insightful discussions with industry leaders. Until then, I'm your host, Matthew Butters, signing off.